بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى واسع الكرم نويت تعلم التعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على تمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Alhamdulillah, all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace and blessings be upon the Master of Creation, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to gather here today to remember the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, which is from one of the greatest of blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses a slave with. And it's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that they sit and remember the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and live according to the life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So I'm going to pause you there. On that note of remembering the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sorry to interrupt you, Shaykh, but you just reminded me. On that note, since we're going to have a good 25 minutes, half an hour of Shaykh Burhaan's talk, I have to say, brothers, seriously man, what's going on? Were you so mesmerized by Shaykh Ahmed Sa'ad's talk yesterday that you forgot to read salawat? Astaghfirullah, 31,000 assisted and 125,000 salawat. 4 times as much as you read. Please, for the sake of the battle of the sexes, for the sake of the battle of the sexes, please read some salawat while you're sitting here and listening to the talk. Barakallahu feekum.
And so remembering the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the greatest of our affairs in this life and in this world, and he is the beautification of everything that connects to him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the topic that we're looking at here today is him sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a friend, and how he sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his example, when it attaches to this relationship, how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam purifies it, beautifies it, and displays the greatest example of how a friend should be with a friend sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because this relationship of a friend is one that we choose by our own by our own choice. It's not something that is placed upon us, forced upon us. Other relationships are chosen for us. Our parents we don't choose, our children we don't choose. For some of us, our spouses we don't choose. But your friend is somebody who you can choose for yourself. You can choose to be with them when you wish. You can choose to separate from them when you wish. There's nothing there legally binding you to that person. And so when it comes to the relationship of friendship, it's one that a person has to choose very carefully. And what we're going to look at is the Prophet ﷺ's advice when it comes to the topic of friendship, and also the benefits of a good friend. And sometimes the best way to understand something is by its opposite. So we look at the harm of a bad friend. So when we look at the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the ahadith the Prophet ﷺ mentions is رَجُلَانِ تَحَابَّا فِي اللَّهِ اجْتَمَعَا عَلَيْهِ وَتَفَرَّقَا عَلَيْهِ. That the reward of such a person, 2 people who came together in friendship for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they separated for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shades them under His shade on that day when there is no other shade but His shade. Yeah, that's the reward for them. So one of the fruits and benefits of good friendship and good company with the righteous, when it's done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does that mean? The scholars say that there's no ulterior motives. You're not a friend with that person because you want a job in the company that they run, or that you have some financial benefit, or that there's some worldly benefit in that relationship. It's solely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this person is a fellow Muslim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us and joined us with the connection of Iman, the connection of La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And for that sake they come together. So it shows, and we always seek those things which are beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that coming together is so beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes them amongst that elite group whom He shades. And then we look at another hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as to how we should act with our friends. The Prophet ﷺ says that if you have somebody that you love, a brother that you love, and this relates to friendship, if there's a friend that you love, then tell them that you love them. So that's one of the first things that we need to do as a practical lesson that we take away from today. We live in a day and age of difficulty, a day and age where people are going through trials and tribulations and hardships which sometimes they don't even share, sometimes we don't even know another person is going through. But having that support, having somebody tell them that you love them. And what does love include? It includes that you take care of their welfare. It's not just a statement here. To tell somebody that you love them isn't just a mere statement that I love you and that's the end of it. What it means here from the Prophet ﷺ is that not only do you tell them verbally, but you allow them to feel it. You allow them to appreciate that you actually have a concern for their affairs. And in this day and age, Muslims need to come together. If we look at the Prophet ﷺ seerah in Makkah al-Mukarramah, the thing that bound them together was this friendship that they had. Through all of the hardship, the difficulties, the animosity, the hatred, the thing that allowed them to pull through that difficulty was the unity of brotherhood and sisterhood that you see in that early Meccan seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. If they didn't have that, if they weren't there for each other, if the Sahaba didn't sacrifice their wealth for one another, we would not have the strong Muslim community that we see later on flourish in Madinatul Munawwarah. It was that unit. They didn't look, is this person my brother or my sister? They didn't look, is there some sort of personal interest or benefit for me in maintaining this relationship with this person? No, it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows the fruits of that to flourish. And if we take this further, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is a really beautiful hadith which shows you the signs of Allah's love upon a slave. Many people ask, how do we know whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us or not? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, إِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا رَزَقَهُ أَخًا صَالِحًا إِنْ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ أَعَانَهُ وَإِنْ نَسِيَ ذَكَرَهُ. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a slave, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them with a true friend. What's the description of this true friend? That when he remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he assists him in that. So if your true friend sees you doing something good, or you as a true friend see somebody else doing good, you assist them in that, you praise them, you support them, you allow them to flourish in that. So for example, somebody is praying salah, you recognize that. Somebody is reciting the Quran, somebody is memorizing the Quran, you assist them in that. Somebody is reciting salawat on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you assist them in that. How do we assist? Any ideas? How can we assist in these regards?
I'm interrupting the speaker.
Any ideas?
I can see lots of ideas. I can't hear any. We haven't reached that phase yet. I don't think we can read people's thoughts. That was not a rhetorical question. That was an actual question. Any ideas?
How do you help your friends in doing good and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Do it yourself.
Okay, so one is being a good role model, doing it yourself. Encouragement, how? Specifically.
Yes, we are going for Winter Spring. No, I don't care if Star Wars is on. We're still going for Winter Spring.
So, as Dr. Asim mentioned, there is an example. When somebody else is finding something difficult in their worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you're that support for them. If you see that there's something that's taking them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's going to distract them, then you're there to encourage them and make sure that they don't fall foul to the tricks of the shaitan, and they're not duped into doing something which has no value in the akhirah at the expense of something which is critical and crucial for their akhirah. And this is what Imam al-Ghazali, when we look at Imam al-Ghazali, he mentions as the true friend is the one that does what's best for you even if you find it bitter. That's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would speak the truth to his Sahaba, and you tell them what was most needed for them. You see the example of the companion who comes and he says to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, advise me. What does he say? Don't get angry. Ya Rasulullah, advise me. He says, don't get angry a second time. Ya Rasulullah, advise me, don't get angry. Sometimes you might want some philosophical answer, some word of wisdom that goes above your head and you can marvel at later on. That's not of benefit to you. Okay, the person might not like to hear what you're telling them, but you as the mirror of that individual expose to them what's in their best interest. Imam al-Ghazali says you should be more grateful to that person than a person and a friend who saves you from one of the calamities of this dunya. For example, if a cobra was about to strike you and your friend saved you from that cobra, how much would you appreciate it? And my father mentions to me when he went on Hajj in 1981, he mentions that he was at the Jamarat and he was about to be crushed. And he said there was a person behind him who sort of pushed the crowd back and protected him and saved him. My father's over 70 years old, he still remembers him till today. Saved him from death. How about a person who stops you from sleeping and missing Fajr? How much do we remember that person? How much do we appreciate that person? Do we mention this person to our family, our children, our parents? Do we mention him to our fellow friends and say, you know what, this person, if we look at the narrations of the Isra wal Mi'raj, what does the Prophet ﷺ say? He says he passes by people whose heads were being crushed with rocks. And he asks Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam so that the narration could be preserved and so that we would know, not because the Prophet ﷺ needed to know. He says to Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, what is the reality of these people? He says, these were the people whose heads were too heavy to rise up from their pillows at the time of Fajr. Heads are being crushed, replaced, reformed, crushed again. What would you do for a person who saves you from that state on the Day of Judgment? That's a friend. That's a true friend. So what we need to do as friends, and this is crucial in the protection of our iman. The waves of fitna, internal and external, have been opened up against the Muslim ummah. The kind of trials and tribulations that we're going through. If we do not reach out as friends to those that are weak, and we're not talking about financially, we're talking about those who are finding practicing the religion in this day and age difficult. They may be at university, they may be surrounded, they may live in a community which is on the outskirts of Birmingham, for example. There's not many Muslims around them, there's no masjid around them. You going in your car to pick them up for salah could be the difference between them dying on iman and dying on kufr. Literally. And this way you see the Sahaba under the training of the Prophet ﷺ doing what it takes to preserve Islam, to preserve the iman of their fellow brothers and sisters, and to take care of their affairs. Because ultimately the worst thing for them would be to enter Jannah and not to see their brother or sister there with them. That was the worst thing for them. And so we see when the Sahaba migrate, the Muhajirin migrate to Madinatul Munawwara, what did the Sahaba do? Friendship doesn't require years of association. You don't have to go to school with that person for them to be a friend. Every Muslim should see a fellow Muslim as a friend straight away, immediately. Sacrifice their wealth, sacrifice their businesses, sacrifice their houses, just to make their brothers and sisters feel comfortable. Let's look at the opposite. And just before we come to that saying of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, a beautiful saying of his, he says, ما من شيء أدل على شيء ولا دخان على نار من صاحب على الصاحب. He says there's nothing that indicates on a greater level to something else, not even smoke, which indicates to a fire, is more of an indicator than a friend towards a friend. The greatest indicator of the reality of a person is the friendship that they associate with. And so the first thing is not pointing the finger at our fellow friends. We need to think, what kind of a friend are we to those that associate with us? Am I a good friend to them? Am I lifting them up? Am I bringing them up? Am I elevating them? Or am I pushing them down? Am I dragging them down? Am I pulling them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Am I a barrier between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and good deeds? And reflect on, it could be one or 2 points by which we are dragging them down. Had a group of brothers I used to play football with. Grew up with them. They used to swear football match. Every single time they got fouled, somebody shoulder barged them, somebody scored a goal, and some of them were even cousins of each other. Literally. First cousin, swear. Said, I'm not going to play football with you anymore. Why not? Class, you swear all the time. I'm going to come and play football and I'm going to listen to you swearing. They said, that's it, we'll stop next time. I said, when you stop, let me know. 2 years later, they called me. I said, we swear we've stopped swearing. So I said, okay, I'll come and play with you. So about 2 weeks ago, I went to play with them and I said, if anybody swears, you're sent off for 5 minutes. So what happens? Our goalkeeper goes and swears. He got sent off 5 minutes, we lost the game. But the thing is, if that's what it takes, if that's what it requires in order to save your friends, in order to make them realize that what they're doing is harmful for one another, we need to take those steps. We need to do those kinds of things. So the story on the opposite scale is that of Uqba bin Abi Mu'ayt. Now this individual, he realized the truth. He saw the light of Nubuwwah. He wanted to accept Islam. Yeah. He was a friend of Ubay bin Khalf, one of the sworn enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. He says to him, if you become a Muslim, I will stop speaking to you. I will never associate with you again. He said, in fact, what I want you to do is I want you to go and a'udhu billah, spit in the face of the Prophet ﷺ and disrespect him. And until you do that now to make up for your consideration of even becoming a Muslim, I will no longer be your friend. So this individual goes. He disrespects the Prophet ﷺ. And he is the one when the Prophet ﷺ was performing salah in front of the Kaaba, he took the intestines of a camel and he threw them over the Prophet ﷺ. Look at that. Look at how far he went because of what? Friend.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure. The people around him. Don't become a Muslim. You don't want to do that. And if you do, what happens many a times when somebody takes the steps towards praying salah and stuff, why you become a big Sufi now? You're going to pray salah. We know what you're like, you know what you've been up to. Those are friends who drag people down. As opposed to saying, MashaAllah, pray for us that we become people who pray as well. So we need to reflect. And the greatest realm of friendship is in our households.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is absolutely crucial. The houses of the Muslims are destroyed right now. The Prophet ﷺ, we see the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about houses in which people would not come to pray Fajr. You know what the Prophet ﷺ said about them? And this is somebody who's described by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you except as a mercy to the universe. The Prophet ﷺ said, if I could, I would set those houses alight. You know what the Prophet ﷺ was indicating to here? He was indicating to the reality of those houses. That those houses in reality are on fire right now. Because in them, the foundations, the principles, the pillars of Islam are not being established. In those houses, there is no peace, there is no unity, there is no harmony. And so, the first step that we need to take, especially during the season of the Mawlid of the Prophet ﷺ, and every year during the season of the Mawlid of the Prophet ﷺ, we should see an improvement in the Muslim Ummah. We should see an increase in ibadah and worship, in good character. We should see a transformation firstly in ourselves and in our households. Especially this is a friendship, the spouse. This is a relationship which again has a lofty rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The greatest thing that we can do for our spouse is to make sure that they are not missing out on those essentials of ibadah. We need to develop that friendship. Reflect on your relationship with those that you term as your friend. What do you do for them? They have a tire, their tires burst or there's a puncture. They call you in the middle of the night. There in a flash. Ready to go with them. They have some need, they have some difficulty that they're going through. We don't want to let them down. We don't want them to be upset with us. But when it comes to our spouse, unfortunately we don't have that same level of dedication. We don't have that same level of support that we have for those that we have chosen to be our friends. So we look at the Sahaba al-Kiram, the Prophet ﷺ's community that he forged. Firstly, look at him himself sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We look at the example of Ramadan, that the Prophet ﷺ during the last 10 nights especially would wake his family up, and he would make sure that they were all present in the masjid, that they were worshipping, that they were reciting the Quran. That was the Prophet ﷺ. He didn't leave them out. And this is one of the hikmahs of why the Prophet ﷺ used to pray his fard in the masjid, and he used to pray his sunnahs and his nawafil in his household, in front of his family. That yes, praying fard is a duty, and I have to lead the community, the people outside in this duty, and I need to show them how they need to pray. But at the same time, I need to maintain my role of a leader and a setter of a good example in my household as well. Imagine a person never prays in their house. How are their children going to learn to pray? How is their spouse going to be supported in worship when it can get difficult? The shaitan's whispering to them, trying to drag them away. So move on. What are the other fruits of a true friend and a believer? The Prophet ﷺ says, مَا مِنْ عَبْدٍ مُسْلِمٍ يَدْعُو لِأَخِيهِ بِظَهْرِ الْغَيْبِ إِلَّا وَمَلِكٌ قَائِمٌ عَلَى رَأْسِهِ يَقُولُ آمِينَ وَلَكَ بِمِثْلِ ذَلِكَ. That there is no brother or friend who makes dua in his absence. And he makes dua for him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel who stands on his head. He's literally there, right there. And he says Ameen to the dua that you make for your fellow friend, and he says the same for you as well. This is what we call one of the tricks of the trade. If you want something, the best thing to do is make dua that Allah blesses your fellow friend with that thing. You'll get an angel who makes dua for you that you get the same. So you're in a better situation. You sinful, or I sinful, deficient individual making dua for your friend. You don't know if it's going to be accepted or not. But in return, a pure, sinless angel is going to make dua for you. It's called tricks of the trade.
Everyone's writing that one down.
So one of the greatest things, and really, this is something which especially our teacher Sayyid al-Habib Umar bin Hafid, Hafidhullah, mentions, that we do not underestimate the power of dua. We're seeing our brothers and sisters and our friends going through trials and tribulations and difficulties. Do not make them a means and a target of our conversations. Did you hear what so-and-so has done? Do you know what he's up to? Do you know what she's done? Etc., etc. That is of no benefit to that person. The only benefit to that person that you are blessing them with is that they will take some of your good deeds from you on the Day of Judgment. What we need to do for those people is in the middle of the night, with a sincere heart, we raise our hands and we make dua for them. This is a true friend. Now we had Habib Muhammad Abdul Rahman al-Saqqaf, Hafidhahullah, visit recently, and he mentioned a beautiful example of one of the companions from the clan of Daws. And he was the leader of those people, the only person who became a Muslim. And the Prophet ﷺ sent him away, and he said to him that go and call these people towards Islam. And he returns the next year and he says to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ asks him, how did they respond? He said, Ya Rasulullah, they rejected me. They didn't believe in what I told them. They've rejected Allah as one God. They don't believe in you as a prophet. Oh, Ya Rasulullah, raise your hands and make dua against them. Yeah. Make dua, Allah destroys them. Prophet ﷺ raises his hands and he makes dua for them, not against them. Prophet ﷺ says to him, go back to them. Call them again. Come and see me a year later. Report back to me, tell me what happened. Comes back a year later, the whole of his clan became Muslim. The whole of those became Muslim. He says, Ya Rasulullah, you sent me back, you made dua for them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transformed their hearts.
Allah.
And we don't understand the power of our dua for our brothers and sisters in their absence. And inshallah, I'll stop there with the request that you make dua for me, inshallah. It really wasn't befitting that I speak in the presence of my teachers. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them, and I make dua that by their good opinion of me and allowing me to sit in their presence here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows me to sit in their company on the Day of Judgment. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.